The first patient is Mrs. J. She's a 49-year-old teacher, and she presented with severe hot flushes, night sweats. For 2 years, her symptoms have gradually increased, and her sleep is also disturbed now, and the hot flushes have become embarrassing at work. And she also experiences some vaginal dryness at the time of sexual intercourse, but there are no other urinary or genital complaints. And she's postmenopausal for more than 1.5 years, and she's a para 1 with a vaginal delivery 22 years back, and she had cholecystectomy. Her family history is significant. Her mother has hypertension and diabetes, and there's also history of breast cancer in a maternal aunt. She has tried several treatments in the last 2 years, including fluoxetine, which was given for 2 weeks, but she had troublesome drowsiness and nausea, and then she was put on escitalopram, which she took for about 2 to 3 months and was initially happy, but then started gaining weight and started having reduced libido and desire, and the drug had to be stopped. Somebody also gave her isoflavones and ER 731 for 3 to 6 months for hot flashes, but nothing worked. Nothing seems to work, and she does not want to try MHT as she's worried about a family history of breast cancer. So her BMI is 26, she's a little overweight, waist circumference is 90, and a clinical breast examination was normal. On per speculum examination, we found reduced moisture in the vaginal mucosa, which was not friable, but the mucosa was thin, and the vaginal pH was 5.5. So, Anita ma'am, I would like to begin with you. What investigations should be advised in a midlife woman like this?
As a routine, hello. As a routine, usually we should take her routine blood examination like CBC, CRP, ESR, blood sugar, thyroid profile, lipid profile, B12 and vitamin D, because now we can find that at these age most of the patients are having very low vitamin D, and we can say that vitamin D is the catalyzer for all the system of the body, so that is very important. And for lipid profile and everything, usually we should do sonography also, transvaginal sonography, as well as LBC pap test should be done. And if mostly her age must be of the 40, so usually we can also do recommend for the mammography also. So
yes,
these are the routine what we are usually doing,
yes,
that we should do.
Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. So we did her routine workup, and her triglycerides were slightly raised and HDL was low, and her, as expected, vitamin D was also very low. So her TVS was normal. She had a small fundal fibroid, but the ET was normal for her age. And the next question is, how is risk assessment done in a midlife woman when she comes in a menopause clinic? And Dr. Renuka, would you like to answer that?
I will say what I do. What we do is, when we have patients coming to menopausal clinic, we assess their symptoms by we are using MRS score for all. In addition to that, we have a routine blood test done, HB hemoglobin and lipid profile, KFT, LFT routine as a baseline, which we are doing annually if they are normal. Because of the lipid profile, automatically we get a CVD risk assessment done. We do not do venous thromboembolic risk assessment in our clinic. Breast cancer is, as we are not using Gale model, we directly send them for mammography and ultrasound breast. And we are doing FRAX score with CC and sarcopenia profile. In addition to that, we are also doing sleep and cognitive decline risk assessment in our clinic.
So coming on to the cardiovascular disease risk assessment, earlier we used to use the WHO ISH Southeast Asian region charts, the risk prediction charts, but now the GloboRisk India, that has come up, and it is a very good online tool. This is the interface of the online tool. It's a very simple GloboRisk India, and it has been made after collecting data from 182 countries. So Meeta ma'am, would you like to throw some light on that?
So I think because there are some sessions on risk assessment.
Okay,
yeah,
sure.
but then the take-home message, we put it specifically over here because we want the audience to use the GloboRisk and not the ASVD. Because we have been seeing throughout, all the time since yesterday, everybody is talking about ASVD, which is not for India. So use the Indian tools which are, like we said, ethnicity specific. So that is the take-home message. And you just
Okay,
go
sure.
on to the website and it's so easy. There are offline tools for global risk as well as the online. You can use any one of them.
The most common lab in Delhi, I suppose in India also is Lal lab. So whenever you say lipid profile, automatically they give you ASVD calculator.
So no, but we have to change. You have to tell them to change. Because this calculator has just come in about 1.5 years ago. So probably many people are not aware of it. So only because if you're into research and you're looking at the papers or you're reading something, you get to, dig into it. So, but then this is what has to be done. So we have to change. You have to tell your path lab people that they have to get into this.
So all the risk assessments were done for this patient, and Gale model was used to get her 5-year and lifetime risk of breast cancer. And her risk was, she was low risk for CVD and VTE, and her breast cancer risk was average. So then the final diagnosis of this patient, she is early postmenopausal. She has moderate to severe vasomotor symptoms with early GSM. She is otherwise healthy without comorbidities, but with 2 risk factors. She's overweight and she has mild dyslipidemia. And also she has vitamin D deficiency and with an asymptomatic fibroid. So the problem here is
Why did you write early GSM?
she has dryness, dyspareunia and dryness, yeah. Yes, yes. And her pH was 5.5, vaginal pH was 5.5. So, so her problem is moderate to severe vasomotor symptoms. She does not want to try MHT, and she has tried a lot of non-hormonal prescription therapies, but experienced side effects and stopped. So, what do we do with such a patient? Sudha ma'am, would you like to throw some light on the management? What general management and what else can we do for her?
See, this kind of a patient, whenever we talk of, vasomotor symptoms, or for that matter, any other problem during middle life, we have to start with the lifestyle measures. If she is already having, she should be, modifying those lifestyle factors in, context with these hot flushes and vasomotor symptoms. Like we tell them some do's and some don'ts in the food items. She should cut down on tea, coffee, spicy food, hard drinks, layered clothing, then paced breathing, exercise, then weight control. That is very important, because once the weight reduction is there, half
Yeah.
of your problem is solved, and your
Yeah.
the vasomotor symptoms, they cut
Yes.
down.
So ma'am, what pharmacological options do we have?
The non-hormonal pharmacological options, we have, SSRIs and SNRIs, then gabapentin, and then selective NK3 receptor inhibitor.
Thank you, ma'am. So what would you recommend for Mrs. J? And in this situation, we know that the decision should be based on an individual choice. But what are the options that we are going to give to her?
See, she's already tried these, SSRIs and SNRIs. The only problem is they improve your vasomotor symptoms if you have them, in a milder form.
Yeah.
And then up to 25 to 69% reduction in frequency and severity as
Yes,
we
ma'am.
compare them with the placebo. But the goal of therapy is to control to the maximum with the minimum dosages. So low dose pyroxine, that's the only FDA approved, we all know.
Yeah.
But then 7.5 milligram is
It's
not
not
available. It's on the higher, doses which we have, which we normally use for the, this antidepressant doses. And in India, in our clinical practice, we all have tried this and using all these drugs, but for milder symptoms. And if you increase the dose, then you have various side effects.
Yeah. So these are the side effects. We'll not go into the details. So Neelam ma'am, I would now like to ask you, are there any special precautions that we need to take while we are prescribing SSRIs and SNRIs?
Yeah, SSRIs and SNRIs side effects we have already told.
Yeah.
Most of them, they are lipid, not neutral. Means
Right.
they have adverse effects on the lipids.
Yes.
And paroxetine, in fact, has the worst effect, and from there, venlafaxine has the worst effect on the lipid profile. And
Right.
all of them, they lead to weight gain as well as in the later stages, insulin resistance also.
Yes, ma'am. So, considerably.
And also paroxetine
Yeah.
and has to be avoided in cases
In-
where patient is on tamoxifen,
Tamoxifen,
because
right.
the enzyme is
Yeah.
losing effect.
Yeah. So escitalopram and citalopram have been found to be the least detrimental to lipid profile. So they are relatively safer than other options. So moving on to gabapentin, pregabalin, oxybutynin, and clonidine, what are their role and what is your experience regarding their use?
Yeah, these they do have some good effect improvement in the vasomotor symptoms, especially gabapentin.
Yes, ma'am.
But the side effects are daytime drowsiness is there, sexual
Yeah.
dysfunction is there. With all these drugs, they lead on to drowsiness, and sometimes
Ma'am,
initially anxiety also is there with
Yeah.
the use of these drugs.
Right.
Pregabalin is little more adverse,
Yes.
so pregabalin is not recommended.
Hmm.
Gabapentin I have used in my practice. Fluoxetine I have used in my practice.
Hmm.
Others no.
Okay.
Oxybutynin and clonidine leads
Yeah.
to hypotension and rebound hypertension sometimes later on.
Right.
And dry
Yeah.
mouth is the
So
main.
oxytin, this use in for vasomotor symptoms is a very recent use.
Yeah.
We know that it is a
Yeah,
drug
but-
for OAB.
Yeah, I have not used.
Yeah,
For
and
vasomotor.
clonidine is a very ancient kind of a drug. It has always been there earlier when
Yeah,
nothing
not
was there, then clonidine was used a lot, but now its use has decreased.
No.
Ma'am, mic,
As
please mic.
OAB I have used. As OAB it is used quite, it is used.
For
yeah.
SUI, yeah,
Not for heart.
Gabapentin for a short time is,
yeah,
then you have to taper the dose. Start
Right.
with 300. 300 really works.
please take the mic.
300 milligrams of gabapentin is quite useful in whatever patients I have given them, all have responded well.
Yeah. But they have to be counseled very well regarding the drowsiness. Yeah, because if you don't tell them, then they will be, I mean, they are very upset. Okay, so we move on to our next case. Mrs. R, a 53-year-old woman who works in a bank. She has history of hypertension, angina, hyperlipidemia, and more than 50% blockage in two vessels was diagnosed. Angiography was done 3 months back. And she presents with bothersome vasomotor symptoms which affect her quality of life. So she's postmenopausal for 8 years and a para 2, and currently she's on metoprolol 50 milligrams per day, rosuvastatin 40 milligrams, clopidogrel 75 milligrams, and ecosprin 75 milligrams. Her BMI is 33 and her blood pressure after the medication is 130 by 86 and her waist circumference is 114. Her lipid profile is still deranged. Serum triglycerides are 180 and total cholesterol is 244. So her final diagnosis, she's postmenopausal with moderate to severe vasomotor symptoms, with established cardiovascular disease, with hypertension, with dyslipidemia, with obesity. So her problem is established cardiovascular disease and other comorbidities with vasomotor symptoms. So what changes can we make in her lifestyle? I would like to come back to Anita ma'am for that.
For lifestyle modification, as we always say that have plenty of fluid, weight loss, then have the good nutritious diet, high protein diet, do exercise, do something for being stress free. So these are the basic requirement that a woman should do, and mostly they help in case of mild to moderate cases.
Yes, ma'am.
But if she doesn't get any response from these, then I think if fazolinetant will be available in the market, that will be the best choice
Yes.
for this type of women
Yes.
who don't want or when we can't give.
Yeah. So what are the other plausible options? I think ma'am has mentioned one. What are the other options? I think I would like to go back to Neelam ma'am for that. We've already discussed, but
About
yeah.
SSRIs, and then the other ones can be complementary and
Right,
alternative medicines.
In
but
fact,
the-
these are used a lot in our country.
Yeah, so CAMS is a very
Yeah.
very often used word for
Right,
in that
right.
thing. But the
Yeah.
The
So
problem
what are
with-
the problems associated
Yeah.
with complementary and
problems
alternative
associated
medicines?
with CAM is that there is no quality control over these products.
Right.
There is no batch to batch consistency also. There's so many variation and so many compounding factors that they are not in fact recommended for the treatment. We are using the, that's a different thing, but off-label use. But
Yeah.
there are no rigorous scientific evidence for use of these
Right.
as for both.
Patient has now become fat. Ideally, she should have been addressed at transition phase to become, at this particular age, it becomes very difficult to lose weight. So we should be targeting patients when they are in their transition.
But the problem is they don't come to us.
We should see that they come to us. This is the job. Bring awareness. That is
Right.
the time to catch them young.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Older they become, more difficult it is to lose weight.
yeah. So it was found in the SWAN study that 80% participants had already used some form of CAM. And the majority of women do not disclose it to their doctors that they are already on some therapy. So we have to specifically ask if they are taking any medication. So the next question to Renuka ma'am, why does menopause care in India still face significant gaps despite the high burden of vasomotor symptoms?
This is because we have to, this is our job, basically, we have to create
Yeah.
awareness. We have to tell people when during transition phase, this is the phase when these problems start coming. We should address these issues, have good menopausal clinic, and we should create awareness among women. Help is available in the form of MSP and non-hormonal also. Most important is the lifestyle changes. Care of diet, the most important is the exercise. These things should be addressed early.
Yeah.
And
So do you think there is an unmet need and whatever
Can I
methods are there?
Add one thing.
Yes.
We have to be first convinced ourselves also that
Yes,
MHP
exactly.
can be given and should be given rather.
Right.
So when once we are convinced ourselves, then only we will prescribe.
So considering her comorbidities, can we use NK3 receptor antagonist in this patient? If it is available in India or if it is there in our basket, what would be your, would it be your choice?
Yes, I think then there is no other choice for this patient. He has, means this would be a good choice, and we are waiting
Yeah.
when this drug will be available.
lifestyle modification would come prior to drug.
Yeah.
We can tell them the advantage of hearing also. Once they understand the pathology, they might even not keep medicine.
Yeah. And I would like to ask Sudha ma'am, is there any connection between vasomotor symptoms and cardiac health? Why do we need to treat her? Because,
Yes.
is there a reason why
Yes.
we should be
Yeah,
proactive?
many studies have shown that all those females who have, vasomotor symptoms, later they are at risk of having cardiovascular diseases.
Yeah.
So the prolonged symptoms of more symptoms, more severe association of cardiovascular disease.
Okay, right. Okay. Yes. So, okay. Thank you so much.